Tomorrow evening is a Tisha B'Av, and we're going to study it together. One of the most interesting Agadot HaChurban, and perhaps the most famous one, the story of Kamtza and Kamtza. And we're going.
Bar Kochba? Is it the same people as Bar Kochba?
No.
Kamtza Bar Kamtza is right. Sorry.
Yeah. So we're going to study it together, the Untold story of the Kamtza and Bar Kamtza. We're going to see what is happening underneath of the surface, and perhaps we're going to start by a question. You will know that there is a series of Agadot HaChurban, the legends of the destruction of the temple, and Chazal opened the series of these legends with the story of Kamtza and Bar Kamtza. And the question is why did a Chazal decide to introduce us to the story of the destruction of the temple, specifically with this story? Now, it is very important to note that there is an importance to the a big importance to the order of the stories. If a Chazal had decided that this is going to be the opening story, there is a significant to this order. So we're going to discuss why, and perhaps we're going to also ask what is the what is the meaning for this story, specifically to our generation and our day and age. So perhaps we are going to start with just reading the story to remind ourselves about the different details, and then together we're going to analyze it. So I divided the story, as you could see, into a few parts, and each part is a different hero of a story. And we're going to ask who is responsible for the destruction. So in every single part of a story, there are different characters. Okay, so perhaps everyone is going to read the story of a different character, and then at the end we are going to ask who do you think is the most responsible for the destruction. So who wants to start? The number one is the messenger.
I'll read it first. The Gemara explains Jerusalem was destroyed in Kamtza and Bar Kamtza. There was a certain man whose friend was named Kamtza and whose enemy was named Bar Kamtza. He once made a large feast and said to his servant, "Go bring me my friend Kamtza." Servant went and mistakenly brought him his enemy Bar Kamtza.
Okay, thank you. Next,
So it was
the
the
host.
servant's fault. He brought the wrong guy.
That's right. We are going to discuss it all in a moment.
No, the servant is the enemy.
Okay, so B, the host. Who wants to read this?
The first part?
Yeah.
The man who was hosting the feast came and found Bar Kamtza sitting at the feast. The host said to Bar Kamtza, "That man is the enemy, Baal Dvava of that man. That is, you are my enemy. What then do you want here? Arise and leave." Bar Kamtza said to him, "Since I have already come, let me stay, and I will give you money for whatever I eat and drink. You should not embarrass me by sending me out." The host said to him, "No, you must leave." Bar Kamtza said to him, "I will give you money for half of the feast. Just do not send me away." The host said to him, "No, you must leave." Bar Kamtza then said to him, "I will give you money for the entire feast. Just let me stay." The host said to him, "No, you must leave." Finally, the host took Bar Kamtza by his hand, stood him up, and took him out.
Okay, thank you. And now, the sages. Who wants to read the sages? It is on the top of page 3.
After having been cast out from the feast, Bar Kamtza said to himself, since the sages were sitting there and did not protest the actions of the host, although they saw how he humiliated me, learn from it that they were content with what he did. I will therefore go and inform against them to the king.
Okay, thank you. And now, the next character, Bar Kamtza, where it says C. Who wants to read it?
I'll read it. He went and said to the emperor, "The Jews will rebel against you." The emperor said to him, "Who says that this is the case?" Bar Kamza said to him, "Go and test them. Send them an offering to be brought in honor of the government, and see whether they will sacrifice it." The emperor went and sent with him a choice 3-year-old calf. While Bar Kamsa was coming with the calf to the temple, he made a blemish on the calf's upper lip, and some say he made a blemish on its eyelids, a pleasure according to us. Halacha, it is a blemish, but according to them, general rules for their offerings, it is not a blemish. Therefore, when Bar Kamsa brought the animal to the temple, the priest would not sacrifice it on the altar, since it was blemished. But they also could not explain this satisfactorily to the gentile authorities, who did not consider it to be blemished.
Okay, thanks. And now the next character in a D, Rabbi Zachariah ben of Kulas. Who wants to read this?
Yeah, but wait.
Sabo Rabbanan. The sages thought, Likruvia. Wait, should I read in Hebrew or English?
Whatever you want.
Okay, Likruvia, the Korban, Mushlam, Shalom, Alchut. They would be sort of important so that they could bring peace to with the government. Amarlo, Rabbi Zachariah ben Abkolas, Yomru, Ba'ale Mumin Karivin Legabe Mizbeach. So Rabbi Zachariah ben Abkolas said to them, if the priesthood is, the people will say, no blemished animal can be offered on the altar. Sabor lemik til ya delo vizil velima. Sages said that if they don't have sacrifices, we must prevent Bar Kamsa from reporting this to the emperor. Sages thought we should go kill him so that he would not go and speak against them. Amaru, Rabbi Zachariah Yemro, Matil mum bakdishim yarok. If you were to kill them, then people would say that one who makes a varmish on a sacrificial animal to be killed. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, on that notu shel Rabbi Zachariah ben Abkolas hachriva et bitenu l'srifa et hilkalnu v'hagbitenu me'atzenu. Rabbi Zachariah said back to them, "You kill them." As a result, they did nothing. And his thunder was accepted by the Roman authorities, and thus the war began. Rabbi Yochanan said that this excessive humility of Rabbi Zachariah ben Abkolas destroyed our temple, burned our sanctuary, and exiled us from our land.
Thank you. So now the last character is Nero Caesar. in where it says E. Who wants to read this?
I'll read it. The Roman authorities sent Nero Caesar against the Jews. When he came to Jerusalem, he wished to test his faith. He shot an arrow to the east, and the arrow came and fell in Jerusalem. He then shot another arrow to the west, and it also fell in Jerusalem. He shot an arrow in all four directions of the heavens, and each time the arrow fell in Jerusalem. Nero then conducted another test. He said to a child, "Tell me a verse that you learned today." He said to him as follows, "And I will lay my vengeance upon Edom by the hand of my people Israel." Ezekiel 25 verse 40. Nero said, "The Holy One, blessed be He, wishes to destroy his temple, and he wishes to wipe his hand with that man, that is with me." The Romans are associated with Edom, the descendants of Esau. If I continue on this mission, I will eventually be punished for having served as God's agent to bring about the destruction. So he fled and became a convert, and ultimately Rabbi Meir descended from him.
Okay, thank you.
What? I mean, man?
Yeah. And Rabbi Bigon always says that he studied in Machon Meir. Yeah. So, so we have here many different characters in the story. Who do you think is responsible for the destruction? What do you say?
Kadosh Baruch Hu.
Okay.
Rabbi Zachariah,
Thank you.
Why do you think Rabbi Zachariah?
because he was the sage of the generation, and he didn't took a position for making things resolve himself.
Okay, very nice. But he was the Gadol Ador, the greatest Yesaids in the generation, and he didn't do anything to stop it. We're going to talk about Rabbi Zachariah soon. Who else do you think is responsible?
Maybe just the general feeling of Sinach.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Okay, very
everyone,
good. Everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
including Hashem.
Okay. Who else do you think is responsible? What? Say it again?
They all had a part in being responsible for
Mhm.
it.
Right.
It's like, at the end of the day, different pieces just kind of added up.
Mm-hmm.
The pieces were already there, it just needed a spark to go boom.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good.
You know, the guy sent the wrong invitation to the
Mhm.
wrong person, showed up at an uninvited party, got
Mhm.
thrown out.
Right.
You know, okay, the owner could have been nicer, the guy could have not gone to the Romans. You know, end of the day, he did, and the guy that was supposedly the greatest Talmud Chacham was the most anav as well, and therefore spoke for everyone else, and no one could speak up after him.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, whatever he said goes, and they didn't do anything.
Very nice. Yes.
Not
So
much to really go on there.
you were saying that everyone is irresponsible. Okay, very good. We're going to talk about that as well. Who else wants to give a view about who was responsible here?
I think it says on the sages says that the temple was destroyed from the three things, and one of them is like holding a grudge against one another, and I see that both of them are actually holding grudge to each other. Like
Okay, very good. Mm-hmm.
Kamtza should have given maybe forgive him for what he did, which is doesn't really we doesn't really know what happened to them in the first place,
Right.
why they are holding grudge against each other. And yeah, so I think it's the grudge that is holding between them is part of it. It's a big part of it.
Yeah.
So what I always learned was that not the the like the how you can call it, like the fight between on this feast, on this party, it's not the problem, but that all the Chachamim knew about it and didn't do anything, or maybe worse or something, I don't know. And that's the actual reason what's so bad about it, because in every generation we have like Jews, or the groups of Jews when friends are not so big friends. That's not the problem. It's also a problem, but it's not the problem. The problem was that the sages in this generation was when they were also on this lower level.
Very interesting. So you were saying that the sages were actually responsible because but they were silent. We're going to talk about that as well. So we heard a different views concerning who was responsible, either the sages or Bar Kamtza or everyone together, because there was a hatred. So now we're going to analyze each one. But first of all, I'm going to say that I agree with you, that everybody was responsible in some way or another. However, there were those who were least responsible, and there were those who were more responsible. So let's start with the one who was the least responsible, but because of him, everything happened. And this is the messenger. If a messenger would have done his job properly, and he would have delivered the letter to Kamtza instead of Bar Kamtza, none of the story would have happened. So we sometimes
It wouldn't have planned out the way it did, but it wouldn't have actually happened somewhere else. Again, the situation was already at that stage. You just needed someone to flip the switch.
That's right. That is a very good point.
If it wasn't them, it would have been someone else.
Well,
It's a very good point what you're saying.
I
Yes.
feel like that in this process there were several stages in which somebody could have stepped back and like stopped it all. Like Rabbi Meir, Nero kind of did. But like the overall theme is that people have a certain tafkid that they feel like they have to play because of rules, and they're ignoring human elements of it. Right? Whether this is like, oh, I have a letter that says Kamtza, so you give it to the wrong person, or whether it's, I don't like that guy, I don't want him here, and you're ignoring the human element. Whether it's refusing to make a ruling based on like Horat Sha'ah, to say that maybe this isn't what we should do, or I guess I'm an Edomite and my arrows are landing in the right place, so I guess that means I'm gonna do my role right and I'm gonna win. You know, like every step of this is like ignoring the actual consequences of your actions in favor of just like, I guess this is what it says. Like I'm just following orders, kind of, you know.
It's a very good point. A very good point that people could have stopped it in every stage, but they decided to, as you said, just to follow orders, or that the things have to be in a certain way. What do you want to say?
I wanted to check here because we never met with Kamtza.
Okay.
Like there was a certain man, and I think the title is just messed up in here. The temple was destroyed by the account of Kamtza and Bar Kamtza. Well, we haven't met Kamtza. We didn't know who is.
Very good, very good. That is a surprise, but we're going to present at the end. So you keep your question. It is a very, very good question. We're going to talk about. We're going to talk about it. That's a beautiful question. Okay, so let's move to the host. Why do you think the host doesn't have a name? Why is he nameless?
Not important.
Not important. Well, he was someone whom, but he was so stubborn. So because of him,
That could have been anyone. It doesn't have to be anyone specific.
Okay, very good, because that perhaps the reason why there is no name is because it could have been any of the people in Jerusalem at that time. As you said, it was an atmosphere of a sinat chinam, of reasonless hate. So it could have been anybody. So that is why he doesn't have to have a specific name, because but he represented the people of Jerusalem at that time. Very good. You mentioned the sages. Let's say you talk about the sages. The sages of the generation, they just sat there and they were silent. They didn't do anything to stop it. Now, this reminds us of a different historical event that the sages were silent, and because of the silence, a tragedy happened. So if everybody please could turn to page 7. This is from Tana de Eliyahu, the Midrash of Eliyahu Rabbah, where it says at the top of page 7. Who would like to read it? This is a very interesting midrash.
From the start, concerning
Yeah.
already. Concerning the approximately 70,000 of the children of Benjamin who were slain in Gibeah. Perhaps you will ask, why were they slain? Because the members of the great Sanhedrin, which Moshe, Joshua, and Phinehas, son of Eleazar, had left with Israel, should have bound chains of iron around their loins, should have rucked their garments up above their knees, and labored to go about to all the towns in Israel, spending a day in Beit El, a day up in Hebron, a day up in Jerusalem, and continuing in this way for a year, or 2, or even 3, until Israel had settled down in their land and had been taught proper conduct. Had the Sanhedrin done so, the name of the Holy One would have been magnified and hallowed in all of it, from the end to end, which he created. But they did not do so. When they entered the land, each member of Sanhedrin went to his own vineyard and to guzzling his wine, saying, "This is the life for his own vineyard. This is the life for me," not intending to take on any burdens but his own.
Thank you.
Besides,
Okay, great. Thank you. So, how do you think this is connected to the story of the Kamtza and the Baal Kamtza? What do you say?
they didn't care about each other.
No,
Same
the
story.
leader, what's his name? Rabbi Zechariah ben Avkulis, he seemed like he was only concerned with his own well-being, or at least, didn't feel concerned enough with the peace among other people. So, and the leaders, we know that at least the Nevi'im always blame the leaders when the nation falls. Ishaya, Yirmiyah was talking about how the leaders failed the people and take advantage of them. So this is connected to that in the case that the Sanhedrin, once they actually entered the land, they felt, all right, our job is done, now we can retire. And that was a mistake.
That's right. When the spiritual leaders are silent, when terrible things happen, so they are to be blamed. And the sages sat there at that banquet, and they saw how Baal Kamtza was humiliated, and they didn't do anything. They didn't speak up. They didn't say anything. They didn't try to put out the flames. They didn't try to calm the situation. They were just quiet. And now when you're talking about Rabbi Zechariah ben Avkulis, we are momentarily going to come to him, but just important to say, if you could please look at source. Just a moment. Let's see what source it is. Here. Source 2 on page 6. This is from a Midrash Rabbah. This is about Rabbi Zechariah ben Avkulas, and that we should remember that he was the Gedol Ador. He was the greatest sage of the generation. This is from the Midrash on Eicha Rabbah. Rabbi Zechariah ben Avkulas, who was present at the banquet, could have prevented the host from treating about Kamtza in this manner, but he did not intervene. He did not do anything to stop it. So we know the identity of one of the sages who was a silent, Rabbi Zechariah ben Avkulas, and the Midrash blames him for not doing anything to prevent the situation. We are momentarily going to talk about it more, but let's speak about the Baal Kamtza. Okay, so the Baal Kamtza is obviously to be blamed because that his hatred and his revenge destroyed the temple. It is true that he was humiliated, that he wasn't treated properly. He was treated very harshly, but it is no excuse to destroy the temple and to destroy. It is a collective punishment. Why does everybody have to suffer because of his argument with the host? So this is definitely he is a very big a player in the destruction of the temple. So now let's say you talk about Rabbi Zechariah ben Avkulas. I've got a question. It says in the Hebrew, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Anvatanuto. Okay, this is a difficult word. What does Anvatanuto shel Rabbi Zechariah ben Avkulas hechriva et beitenu v'sarfa et heichalenu v'higletanu me'artzenu? We could look at the English translation. Let's see if I translated it properly. The translation. Okay, very good. They translated it beautifully. It says, Rabbi, look at the top of page 5. Now, it is just important to say that when one translates the Hebrew or the Aramaic to English, a translation is always an interpretation. So it depends who translates it. So it is always good to compare different translations. So this comes from the Steinsaltz translation.
Yeah.
Now
all three big ones here: Schottenstein, Steinsaltz, and Sazino.
That's right. So I just want to say a word about the different translations. The best translation is the Schottenstein. Second is Steinsaltz. Third is the Sonsino. Okay, this is just important to know. If you want a different time, I could explain.
Wait, what's the first?
Schottenstein.
Oh.
The Schottenstein, the art school, is the best translation, and also it isn't only a translation; it is also an interpretation. It is very good. They bring a lot of different sources, but you could go deeper. You could look. If you open those sources, it tells you, we'll look at different tractates, look at different commentators. It is very good, the Schottenstein. Okay, it's just important to know about the different translations. So this is a from a standard. As I said, it is also a very good translation. It says here at the top of the page 5, Rabbi Yochanan says the excessive humility of Rabbi Zachariah ben Avkulas destroyed our temple. Now, what is bad about humility? I thought that to be humble is a very good virtue. It is something very good. It says about Moshe Rabbeinu that he was the most humble of all men. Why is Rabbi Yochanan criticizing Rabbi Zachariah ben Avkulas of being humble?
Where is this Gemara?
Humble is something good. It is in the Gemara of Yegitin. Everything is from Yegitin unless it says otherwise. So I thought that being humble is something good. Why is he being criticized for being humble? What do you think?
Because he didn't took a position.
He was too humble.
Too humble. Okay.
To be silent and ignore the fact that something bad will happen.
Say it again.
He preferred to stay silent.
To be silent. That's right. So to be too humble is sometimes dangerous. Sometimes it isn't good to be too humble. One should all of the character traits should be, as the Maimonides says, you should walk in the golden path. You shouldn't be extreme in any direction. Okay, even in being generous, to be too generous isn't good. It isn't good. It isn't good to be too generous. One has to always walk in the golden path. Never take any extremes. And in this case, Rabbi Zachariah ben Avkulas took an extreme, and he was too humble. He was too modest. And the Gadol Ador, it is expected of him not to say, no, I can't deal with such a big question. I can't give any ruling. I can't possibly say to kill Bar Kamtza. I can't possibly say that this sacrifice would be sacrificed. I can possibly paskin v'halacha in such difficult questions. And the Gadol Ador has to take action. He has to rule the halacha. He can't be silent. He can't be too humble. And this is something very important that the Maharatze Chayut says. One of the greatest commentators. So he says, you could see it in a source 4. So he says that according to the halacha, pikuach nefesh, when one's life is in danger, and especially even more so when the lives of Klal Yisrael, all of the nation of Israel is in danger, pikuach nefesh dochet kol mitzvot, right? So we're obviously, according to the halacha, it is allowed to sacrifice even an animal that has a blemish, because a pikuach nefesh, if you could violate Yom Kippur and Shabbat for a pikuach nefesh, you could sacrifice an animal that isn't supposed to be sacrificed. But because that he was too humble, he did not think that he could paskin v'halacha in that matter. So he thought, but only Gedolei Ador could you do it, and he was too humble to think that he was Gedolei Ador, which he was Gedolei Ador. Everyone was looking at him. Everyone was turning to him, and the same behavior repeated itself. Actually, it preceded. It didn't repeat itself, but it happened before in the banquet. He said to himself, how could I stand up and stop what is happening? Who am I? But he was the Yigdol Ador. He could have done something, but he didn't. And because that he was too humble, the temple was destroyed. And it is important just to learn something small about what does it mean to really be humble. And this is what Rav Kook says in the source 5. When humility brings to sadness, it is unacceptable. It is acceptable when humility brings happiness, strength, and inner respect. So somebody who is humble, it doesn't mean that he does not know his greatness. Did Moshe Rabbeinu know that he was Moshe Rabbeinu, even though he was humble? Did he recognize his strength? Of course he did. Because what Rav Kook says is that true humility brings to strength and inner respect. Okay? And if we look at a source 6, who wants to read source 6? This is from The Light of Holiness of a Rav Kook. Very, very important Kabbalistic books. Who wants to read it? Source 6.
One must recognize one's inner talents and to recognize oneself if one was meant for greatness. One should not be alarmed by a sin of pride in knowing one's intellectual level and the value of one's tendency. On the contrary, one should be much more cautious from unacceptable humility, which depresses the soul and makes the godly light in one's soul indistinct.
Okay, thank you. So we could see here that a true humility means recognizing your greatness, and it gives you the strength to stand up against injustice. This is what a true humility actually is. Now, the only one. This is absurd, because the only character here who is not responsible is the Roman Caesar, right?
Yeah.
Now, this is a great irony, right? It is a complete irony in the story, because we would have thought that Nero would be the great villain, the great, the worst character here. But he understands that there's something greater than politics is actually happening, divine politics, godly politics, and he says, I don't want to have anything to do with it. And he runs away, and he decides to convert to Judaism. And he goes and studies in the yeshiva, and one of his descendants is a Rabbi Meir. Now, this is a great irony, because the sages, they are the ones who are responsible for destroying the temple, and Nero, the Roman Caesar, he doesn't want to be responsible. He doesn't want to be connected to the whole story, and he decides to convert. Very strange, right? Now, you mentioned before Kamtza. Now, this is the surprise. This is the surprise for the shield. This is the highlight of the shield, the most important part. So, let's just remind ourselves. It says in the Gemara, Jerusalem was destroyed on account of Kamtza and Bar Kamtza, right? So Bar Kamtza we know, right? Bar Kamtza was the one who went into the Romans, and because of him the temple was destroyed, okay? We understand why Bar Kamtza is responsible. But Kamtza, he wasn't connected to the whole story. He is still waiting there in his home in Jerusalem, waiting for an invitation, but it's never going to come. He never even got the invitation. He doesn't even know that the whole story, the whole drama is taking place. So why is he mentioned for generations to come? Generations are yet to come. Everybody studies for almost 2,000 years of the stories of the destruction of the temple, and everyone says it's all because of Kamtza. It's all because of Kamtza. But Kamtza didn't even come. Kamtza doesn't even know it's because of him. He didn't even receive the invitation. So why is he mentioned there? For the dread of the generations to come. Everyone is criticizing him. Because of him, the temple was destroyed. But it wasn't because of him. So why do you think Kamtza is connected to the story?
Because he was the friend who was supposed to be invited.
Okay, so what does this justify being responsible? He was the friend. He didn't even know about it.
I think I'm gonna go into the.
What?
When the name is similar enough and you make a mistake, it's kind of connected.
Is it because of his name? He isn't responsible that his mother called him Kamtza. Well, perhaps if somebody had a name like that, he should have changed it. Okay, but that is a different story. But why is he responsible?
Can I?
Yeah.
Speak. Okay.
Yeah, please.
So I would input in the like Lashon Hara. Like in Lashon Hara, there's always been the three people involved.
Mm-hmm.
One is the subject,
right,
and the two is like the having the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And it said even though the subject is not present during the conversation, he's still being punished for the Lashon Hara.
Being punished? Why should he be punished?
Because he did something. He did something wrong, and that's why this is being revealed to the third person.
What did he do?
Let's say the person is just having like a bad habit like this, and two other people are doing like Lashon Hara about him, and the initiator of Lashon Hara is the one who's saying the bad things about this person, and this being revealed to the other person. So
he should be punished. Why should the person who is talked about him, why should he be punished? He isn't connected. He isn't doing anything.
Good question, but
So why is he a Kamtza?
just-
Why is he a Kamtza? Why should he be written down in a history as the one who, because of him, the temple was destroyed? The answer is that we have to learn one word in Aramaic. There's Kamtza and there's Baal Kamtza. What does Baal mean in Aramaic? Son. So it's Kamtza, right? And there is the son of Kamtza. Okay, so let's say you look at this, okay? There's Kamtza and Baal Kamtza. Okay? Let's say you talk about Kamtza and Baal Kamtza. Okay? So Kamtza is the father, right? The father of Baal Kamtza, and Kamtza is a son, right? Right now. And now there is the host, right? We don't know his name, right? Baal Kamtza is the enemy of the host. Okay, I'm gonna do like this, okay? He is the enemy, okay? And Kamtza is his friend, okay? Now, I would like to ask you a very simple question. What father would be the best friend of somebody who hates his son?
Maybe the father also hates the son.
No. Well,
Makes sense.
if that is true, this is actually the source of the problem. Because that what we see here is a microcosmos of the atmosphere of Jerusalem at that time. We could see here that there was a difficulty in the relationship. There was a difficulty in the how should we say in the emanut? To be ne'eman, faithfulness. A different word for faithfulness. Yeah, different word for faithfulness.
Trust?
To be, trust. There should have been faithfulness between the Kamtza and Baal Kamtza. That the father and son, they should have been in such a close connection of that the father wouldn't be the best friend of somebody who hates his son so much that he's going to kick him out of the banquet and humiliate him so much. Why didn't the father do anything to try and bring peace? How could he be the best friend of somebody who hates his son? We could see here that there was a problem, a very serious problem in the family, in the core family. And when there is a destruction in the home, there is also a destruction in the home, the Beit Mikdash, where your Beit Mikdash is the temple, is the home of the nation of Israel, with Hashem. So when there is in the family there's a serious problem, it reflects a serious problem that is all over the nation of Israel. So this is perhaps the reason, and we're just going to read what the Maharasha says. The Maharasha says with his explanation. Look at the end of page 8. Maharasha. Perhaps these were father and son, and the messenger confused between them. Furthermore, Bar Kamtza came, although he knew that Kamtza was his enemy, but he thought that since his father is Kamtza's friend, Kamtza certainly seeks also his friendship to make peace with him by inviting him. So that is why he came. But this is the serious problem. So everyone is responsible. Everyone is responsible here, but yes.
It's a bit confusing. I didn't understand.
I'll explain it again. That it says that because of Baal Kamtza and Kamtza, the temple was destroyed. So the Baal Kamtza we understand, because but he.
No, the sentence here about Kamtza came out, so he knew that
okay.
Kamtza was his enemy.
So the question is, why did Baal Kamtza come to the banquet if he knew that the host hates him so much? So he thought that because his father is the best friend of the host, so probably as a father tried to make a peace between them, and then if he got the invitation, it means that everything is going to be okay. So he was surprised what happened, but it also means that his father did not try to make peace. So this is the story, and as Rav Kook said, that if we were destroyed and the world was destroyed with us because of sinat chinam, so we are going to be rebuilt, and the world is going to be rebuilt with us because of ahavat chinam, because of love, and love starts from our own family. It starts from a home, and then it goes and it expands to the whole nation. So this is actually the untold story of Kamtza and Bar Kamtza. Yeah.